Hello everyone, I'm Natasha Fatah and you're watching CBC News Network. Canada's top trade negotiator with the U.S. says Donald Trump and Mark Carney will likely talk over the next number of days. Dominic LeBlanc says he remains confident that negotiations to reach that trade deal will continue. But this comes after the U.S. imposed a 35% tariff on Canadian goods not covered under CUSMA. Minister LeBlanc appeared earlier in the day on U.S. television laying out his position.
We're going to continue to do the work. We left always with a better understanding of the American concerns in the trading relationship. Ambassador Greer, Secretary Lutnick engaged with us in constructive, cordial conversations. So we're prepared to stick around and do the work needed.
But the Canadian side may face some challenges given that U.S. officials appear to be giving mixed messages and mixed signals on the state of the tariffs as well as the trade negotiations. Journalist Tony Waterman brings us more details from Washington.
Yeah, it was all a bit muddled from the top White House officials. The U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer saying on CBS's Face the Nation that he doesn't think that these newly announced tariff rates with any country will be coming down, that these tariffs rates are in essence set. He didn't say Canada specifically, but assuming that would also stretch to our northern neighbor. But the White House Director of National Economic of the White House National Economic Council, Kevin Hassett, saying on a separate program on NBC's Meet the Press that he expects talks to continue with countries still negotiating a deal with the U.S. Take a listen.
I think a lot of these, well, I know a lot of these are set rates pursuant to deals. Some of these deals are announced, some are not. Others depend on the level of the trade deficit or surplus we may have with the country. So these tariff rates are pretty much set.
For the deals that aren't ready yet, they're going to get the reciprocal rates, soon, and then we would expect that there might continue to be negotiations with those countries.
So both of these gentlemen talking about the same thing here, but with a very nuanced and very important difference. And that difference is whether any of these countries can still hold out hope that they can continue to negotiate with the United States. And it's all the more confusing because the Trump administration is treating everything as a quote unquote deal, even when the tariff rate is unilaterally forced, when the other side does not agree to the so-called deal. Whether or not this is a negotiating ploy by the White House, we just don't know at this point. Trump, of course, likes to fancy himself as a superb deal maker, so perhaps this is part of the game. But ultimately, it will be Donald Trump himself who is going to decide when these tariffs kick in and what the tariff rate is going to be.
We know that on Friday, the markets were not handling the news of the tariffs that well. What do you anticipate is going to happen when the markets open on Monday?
Yeah, you're right. If the end of last week is anything to go by, then we should expect to see a lot of red in the markets this coming week. All of the major indices in the U.S. slipped on Friday, the first time that we had seen such drastic drop-offs in months as it became clear that these tariffs are on their way and as the president started rolling out higher than expected rates on certain countries. So Canada, for example, this 35% tariff on goods that are not covered by the trade deal between the U.S., Mexico, and Canada kicking in on Friday. The initial rate had been 25%. But up until this point, markets had been very strong in the United States. And that was because investors really didn't believe that Trump would follow through with these tariffs, the so-called taco trade. Trump always chickens out. And we saw this happen as far back as Liberation Day back in April. We saw this massive market sell-off. The bond market had lots of turmoil, and Trump hit pause on the tariffs partly because of that. But Hassett saying earlier today that the tariffs are not going to be rolled back even if the markets start to tank, including the bond market. He said that the markets have seen what the Trump administration is doing and they have celebrated it. Of course, once all of these tariffs from dozens and dozens and dozens of countries start to kick in and the U.S. consumer starts footing the bill, they could start to change their story, perhaps, if consumer sentiment and spending drop off a cliff.
Journalist Tony Waterman in Washington.